live studio audience here cheering madly.
All right, Pod on Lansdowne is pleased to be joined in front of a live studio audience, as our special guest just mentioned, Dr. Charles Steinberg, the president of the Worcester Red Sox, WooSox president, here in the flesh, in the middle, mind you, of a college lecture over at Emerson College, right down the way in Boston. Dr. Charles, thank you for A, taking your time to speak with us today, and B, welcoming us inside of the classroom. Who would have thought that Pod on Lansdowne would have been part of the college curriculum? That just shows how big of a year this has been for us, but we appreciate you taking your time.
You are so pedagogically useful. How about that?
Wow.
It is my pleasure to say hi to you, and I thank my students for being willing to take a little bit of a break from the hard work of learning about sports as soft power to let me be with you tonight.
Now, was this our first step towards getting tenure as Emerson professors? You've been in it more than we have, so I just want to know what the process is there.
It's the first step, but it's a long road.
That's fine. Hey, the longest journeys begin with a single step. That's okay with me. Now, we're aware of your background. It's a long resume that you have within the sport of baseball. But just for people who may not be aware, and I understand this might be a bit of a loaded question to try to boil this all down, but in an elevator pitch sort of style, for people who may not be aware, what has gotten you to this point where you're the president of the AAA affiliate of the Boston Red Sox? And it's a long history with a couple of different franchises. I'm sure our audience would be very interested to learn more.
Well, I don't know how interested they'll be, but as a baseball-loving child, growing up in my native Baltimore, I was thrilled to get an internship in high school last month of senior year of high school at the best school in Baltimore, Gilman School. And it was a 1-month internship, of course, with no pay. And that 1 month turned into 19 years with the Orioles while I was in college, while I was in dental school, while I was becoming the team dentist. And then after those 19 years, I followed my mentor and the president of the Orioles, Larry Lucchino, as he took over the San Diego Padres, where I had 7 glorious years in La Jolla, in San Diego. And then he said, we're moving to Boston. And then it was off to Boston to see what we might be able to do about a proverbial curse. And we took over in 2002, bringing our whole family, our ever-expanding family by then. And after we won 2004 and 2007, I did have the itch to go back to the West Coast, and the Los Angeles Dodgers made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And
they're good at that. They do a lot.
It's deferred. They're still paying them.
Guilty as charged, you know. And went to the Dodgers, and that was certainly an exciting, interesting time. And from there, the commissioner of baseball, Bud Selig, invited me to come join him in Milwaukee, making me the first person ever to move from Malibu to Milwaukee. But had a wonderful time with Commissioner Selig. Found out what a really warm and funny guy he is, even though he sacrificed much of his national public persona for the game. But behind the curtain, he's the best. And I was with him, and then Larry Lucchino said, come on back to Boston. I said, tell that to the commissioner. And I came back to the Red Sox in 2012, which meant I was there for 2013, maybe the most important year in my career. And I've been back wearing Red Sox ever since. Larry put a group together to buy the Pawtucket Red Sox, thought that we would build a ballpark there. And when Rhode Island's political climate wasn't conducive to that, Larry started returning calls to the 18 cities and towns that wanted us, and Worcester was, by every measure, the most wonderful choice. And Larry chose Worcester, and I've fallen in love with the city, fallen in love in the city, got married for the first time in my life to a wonderful Worcester school teacher. And in addition to being president of the Worcester Red Sox, I get to teach my students here at Emerson a couple nights a week. How's that?
That's a pretty good synopsis there, right off the cuff there, right? And that's so many different hats that you've worn over the years within this sport, Dr. Steinberg. I mean, you look through the resume, you've helped instituted, customer service departments and video departments within Baltimore in the 80s and 90s. You had a big part of branding in San Diego, Boston, LA. You've worked in the majors. You've worked within the minor league ranks here. You've worked for the commissioner's office, all different parts of this game that we love. I guess one question that I definitely had that I wanted to ask you, what would you say has been your North Star principle in all of these jobs? If there is one or two that you could point to.
I'm a baseball fan. I think that I've done a great job of never growing up. I think that staying the 10-year-old child who could sit in an empty spring training ballpark when no one was around and imagine what I, the 10-year-old, would like to see opening day, and then starting with that kind of dream, that kind of vision, I think that's been the key. I always thought that if I did grow up or got tarnished by, the stories you see about the business side, then that would probably reduce my ardor. But I believe in baseball. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I believe in, I think it's a great sport. It's outdoors, it's sun and sky and grass and dirt, and bats and balls. I think it's also wonderful because of how it unifies people, brings people from all backgrounds together. Rich, poor, black, white, brown, Latino, African-American, white, you name it. No matter what you identify with, we can all come together with baseball. And then the third part that I've really kind of savored in recent years is the power of baseball to effect change in communities and in society, baseball and ballparks, and that is our testament.
Go a little deeper into that, or Liam, you can go first. I don't want to step on your toes.
This is a perfect segue actually, because I mean, as Fitz said, like you've worked up and down the ladder in baseball, and so much of your work has been community facing, community focused. Do you feel like there is a disconnect when you jump from the majors to the minor leagues in terms of community outreach? Do you feel like there's, I guess the question is really, do you feel like there is a difference or have noticed a difference in terms of what major league teams do in terms of community outreach as opposed to what a minor league team can do? And are there pros and cons to both?
I really don't think that I do see a difference. I think that I've discovered that which we all already know, which is there's nothing minor league about an 8-year-old. There's nothing minor league about a 72-year-old. The minor leagues just tell you that players with major league talent, in many cases, are refining their skills to perform at the highest level consistently. That's it. And Worcester is an example of a major market. It's in the Boston market. And the issues that a ball club can help you with are just as evident in Worcester as they are in Boston. And the programs that we have been creating are models of what we've done in San Diego, Boston. I've got Padres scholars, Red Sox scholars, WooSox scholars. I was working on Dodger scholars when I was there. But you tell me, what is minor league about a town? I'm going to challenge you on it because it would be saying that people are minor league, and they're not. The moms and the dads and the kids and the grandparents and the great uncle and the dogs and the cats, we welcome them all. That's really the same. the size of your ballpark might vary. The price of your tickets can be much lower in the minor leagues because you don't have player payroll as one of the significant items on your ledger. But the hot dog is the hot dog. I really think that the community opportunity in minor league baseball is just as great. One thing you lose, you're not going to have David Ortiz there for 10 years in the minors. You're not going to have my hero, Brooks Robinson, for 23 years in the minors. But you do have, and I see him on the screen, you do have Smiley Ball.
There he is.
Matters. Now think about it. Your mascots, they're Smiley Ball because the smiley face was invented in Worcester.
That's right.
You have Smiley Ball. You have his dog, Woofster the Wonder Dog. You have Roberto the Rocket because Robert Goddard, who is the father of the space industry, invented the rocket and was from Worcester. And you have Clara, the heart of the Commonwealth, because Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross, was from Worcester County. But you have enduring personalities in the form of mascots, and they can have great community impact with consistency while Jarren Duran comes through and exits to be an MVP of the All-Star game, while Tristan Casas comes through and then goes and bombs are bursting in air in Boston. So the players come and are involved in the community, but you hope and know that they're going to wind up finding their levels in the major leagues. But your mascots are the enduring personalities.
Now, I had to ask you, Dr. Charles, your resume, it says you had a role in establishing the Swinging Friar mascot out in San Diego. With that in mind, did you have a role in establishing our favorite round Smiley Ball?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was
I need that. That's huge for this audience.
You spent 3 hours
for the
on
Pod on
Smiley
Lansdowne
Ball.
audience.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a big piece of lore.
Think about this. We moved to San Diego, and the Padres were at an ebb in their trajectory at that point. There were 28 teams in Major League Baseball, and the Padres we inherited had ranked 28th in 1994 in attendance, in season tickets, in win-loss percentage, and in revenue. And as Larry Lucchino said to me when thinking he had to persuade me to join him, he said, "We can't possibly mess this up." He said, "The stone's already at the bottom of the hill." Well, nobody was clamoring for this funny little mascot named Blooper. Now, they did love the San Diego Chicken back in the day.
Infamous.
But that wasn't the Padres.
Still do love the
mascot.
San Diego Chicken.
Oh, my God. Ted Gianolis is a genius and a great mascot. But that wasn't the Padres mascot. It was a San Diego mascot. It was a radio station's mascot originally. So we're looking at what would be the mascot, what would be the insignia as we try to bring back happiness. And I'm looking along the wall at all of the media guide covers. And there's this happy little swinging friar right up through 1984. Well, wait a minute. The Padres were in the World Series in 84. Why did he disappear? And we were told, well, Mrs. Kroc wanted us to have a more corporate look. Okay, you can do that. But it meant that when you last knew that swinging friar, you were in the World Series. And we started showing it to fans, and they would all say the same thing. Oh, I love that little guy. I used to love that little guy. And so we made him into a mascot, and he's been beloved ever since. Now, turn the clock ahead, and I didn't know anything about Worcester. And you learn about your city. You learn about its history. You better learn about your city. You better learn about its history. And you find out that a humble, kind man named Harvey Ball owned an ad agency, was asked by an insurance company that today is the Hanover Insurance company, to help morale because spirits were low at the company and in America in December of '63 after Kennedy's assassination. And he draws this yellow circle with a smile, realizes though that you could flip it and turn it into a frown. So he adds eyes, decidedly imperfect. He didn't want it to be what we've turned into the emoji. One eye's bigger than the other, the smile's a little bit different. He wanted it to have the human imperfections, and that's where the smiley face came from, not from Forrest Gump. And
I was just about to say Forrest Gump, Doctor. You stepped on my toes. Damn.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I should have let you say it. And so Worcester is beaming with pride that now in the baseball vocabulary, you know that the smiley face, or our mascot Smiley Ball representing the smiley face, was born and bred in Worcester. Well, you're doing something for a city's self-esteem when you tell its good stories.
Did you feel like, was it like a real light bulb moment when you realized his last name was Ball, and then you could make it a ball? I feel like that had to be, and I was like, whoa!
It was like, oh, that's cool. That works.
Yeah.
When you can have a play on words that's just handed to you like that. So
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Smiley Ball is not only the name of our game, but yes, also the family name of its creator.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, that's a good transition. You mentioned some of your time in San Diego. And, of course, as you mentioned earlier, you had worked with Larry Lucchino for years, spanning a couple of different organizations. And, to summarize the work in the memory of Larry Lucchino in the span of one podcast, it's almost impossible to do. But I did want to hear from you directly. I wanted to hear you talk about your partnership, working with him so closely during those years. And I wanted to hear what were you able to learn from him while working in tandem with Larry Lucchino?
Well, more than I can say in this, of course. But
right,
and that's what he would say about Edward Bennett Williams, his mentor. What I would say to do is this: all baseball-loving fans of a certain age have gone on YouTube and played that unbelievable Earl Weaver clip of him not knowing that the umpire was mic'd. Larry Lucchino was Earl Weaver in a suit with a better vocabulary. He was feisty, aggressive, committed to winning, determined to win, and like Earl Weaver, ferociously loyal to those he was protecting. When Earl would go out there and argue in tantrums that are of legend, it was to make sure, and he was very good at this, that he got thrown out of the game. Because as he said to his players, I can't win 20 games. I can't hit 3-run homers. You can win 20 games. You can hit 3-run homers, but you can't do that if you get thrown out of the game. Let me get thrown out of the game. And I worked for Earl. I was his statistician for many years and loved him, knew him all the way till his peaceful passing at the end of an Orioles cruise, in fact. So I knew Earl well. And having worked for both Earl Weaver and Larry Lucchino, I told Larry, I said, you are Earl Weaver in a suit. And Larry said, I'll take that. Because the aggressive style coupled with a throaty delivery would make you think that they're eternally angry, but they're not. Larry could be agitated, aggravated, animated, irritated, but not angry. That was for special occasions. But when he would talk like this, come on. Well, that could be Earl Weaver, or that could be Larry. Earl would come in and throw the stats down on my little tablet that I had to work on, and he'd point to one. I remember one specific case of Lee May versus Louis Tiant, and he said, is that right? And I went and checked it back in the books, said, yes, it is. Okay. He talked the same, whether he was happy or whether he was mad. Well, Larry could be that way too. He was just urgent, and he just wanted to win and build champions, build ballparks, and improve cities. That was Larry.
It's so funny you mentioned sort of the both sides of the coin to Larry and Earl, because I was reading the eulogy you gave at Larry's service, and there was one story that stood out to me was this must have been at Memorial Stadium where a mother and her child were trying to get down onto the field.
San Diego.
Yes, San Diego. So, and I guess he had come to you and was like, why aren't we letting them on the field? And I think you, to some extent, were sort of like, well, we don't really do that. And he wasn't so much upset that those were the rules. It was more so you're not focused on the actual people as opposed to, the cut and dry rules, so to speak.
Right. I mean, I'm sitting at my desk a little while before a ball game, and Carmina, our switchboard operator, calls me and says, Dr. Charles, are fans allowed on the field before the game? Well, no. I mean, that's an easy question, and that's it. No, they're not. Then Larry calls. What business are we in? What? What business are we in? Like, baseball? What business are we in? We're in the yes business. Why did you tell that mother and her daughter that they couldn't go down on the field? Surely with your 62 interns down the hall, you could find someone to take them down. We need fans. We want fans. So Larry, I didn't know that that's what the real question was, but he knew, and we use this phrase a lot in all of our ball clubs, that we are all fans. We are all fans. We know how we want to be treated. And that's why Larry broke so many of the rules and empowered me to break so many of the rules, so that you're coming to Fenway Park and you might just get escorted right down on the field before a game. Or how about the first Father's Day catch we ever had at Fenway, when people couldn't believe that they were being allowed for the first time to step on the grass and find out how cushy it is, to paraphrase Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore in Fever Pitch.
Put a pin in the Fever Pitch.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we'll get to that.
Jake's excited about that.
We'll get to that. I did want to continue on the Lucchino aspect of it all, since we're already on the topic. Of course, Larry Lucchino's contributions, the leadership, his efforts ended up helping get the team, the AAA affiliate, from Pawtucket to Worcester. Dr. Charles, you mentioned earlier that there is no such thing as a minor league sort of fan. Everyone involved in this has a vested interest in it. But going back to a handful of years ago, getting the AAA team from Pawtucket to Worcester, what would you say was the biggest challenge for you, for Larry Lucchino, the decision makers there, in getting that transition done?
And going Boston to Pawtucket to Worcester?
Well, Pawtucket to Worcester specifically.
Yeah. The biggest challenge was this. It was a sad story. Larry bought the WooSox because a dear friend of his, the biggest season ticket holder the Red Sox had, was an attorney in Providence, Rhode Island, and named Jim Skeffington. And Larry loved him. He was a vivacious guy. He was a sportsman. He was a little bit older than Larry, but only by a few years. And he said, Larry, this will be great. We'll build a ballpark in Providence. We'll go to dinner in Providence. So they've got great Italian restaurants. You're going to love it. And Jim was well-heeled in Rhode Island politics. So he knew he could get it done. And he said to Larry the same thing that the late mayor and governor of Baltimore, governor of Maryland, William Donald Schaefer, had said to Larry, you leave the politics to me. You just build me the best damn ballpark there's ever been. And Larry, with the wind at his back, built Camden Yards. Well, Jim Skeffington said that, and Larry set out to build a cool ballpark in Providence. But 3 months after purchasing the club, Jim Skeffington goes out for a run on a Sunday balmy evening and dies. And suddenly, Larry has lost a really good friend. He has also lost a partner. He has also lost the one who could get the Rhode Island politics done. And Larry did not sign up for a crash course in Rhode Island politics. And you would need a degree in that. So we did the best we could, and we listened to the people of Rhode Island. They said, we don't want a ballpark in Providence. We'd rather stay in Pawtucket. Okay, we hear you. The mayor of Pawtucket, wonderful guy. Don Grebian, he's the best. Honorable, good, kind, positive. Larry wound up loving him. We make a 30-year agreement to build a ballpark in Pawtucket. We announce it right on the banks of the Blackstone River. We announce it on May 16th, 2017. A 30-year agreement pending legislature approval. And that was the pothole. That was the quicksand, because the House of Representatives in the state of Rhode Island was not going to spend the political capital to make that happen. They felt they had been burned before with other deals, and they weren't going to do that. And so Larry really wanted to keep the team in Rhode Island, but by all means, he wanted to keep the team in New England. And he loved Massachusetts. And he too fell in love with Worcester. Worcester was the first city that thanked Larry for building a ballpark and choosing it in real time. Everybody else later appreciated Larry, but Worcester appreciated him in real time. And that's why he's in the WooSox Hall of Fame. He's in the Red Sox Hall of Fame. He's in the Padres Hall of Fame. And God willing, he'll be in the Baseball Hall of Fame along with Janet Marie Smith.
You mentioned the ballparks that he had a role in playing with. Obviously Camden Yards. Petco gets thrown up in San Diego. 2004, I think it opened. The renovations made to Fenway within the last 2 decades, and getting a Polar. Were there any specific stalwarts of Larry Lucchino's philosophy that you could point to when it comes to developing or redeveloping, remodeling ballparks?
Because those are some damn good parks. I mean, Camden and Petco.
Camden's the ballpark that.
And then
that's
Fenway,
the new blueprint.
The Fenway renovations are all.
Remind me
crazy.
as I tell you this story to tell you my last words to Larry and Larry's last words to me. But yes, in October of 1986, while Boston was suffering watching the World Series, we were with the Baltimore Orioles, and we had an event for business people who voluntarily sold season tickets for us. And that's when Larry said, we need a new ballpark. I said, Larry, a new stadium? Not a stadium, a ballpark. There's a difference. He said, stadiums are big and multi-purpose, and they block your views of the city. Ballparks are intimate. They are angular. They are irregular. They are idiosyncratic. They are asymmetrical, and they open up to their cities, like the ballparks of the early 20th century, like Fenway Park and Crossley Field and Wrigley Field and Forbes Field, his personal favorite, having grown up in Pittsburgh. And he said, we need a ballpark for baseball and a football stadium for football. I said, Larry, Baltimore doesn't have an appetite for one new stadium or ballpark. You're telling me we're going to build 2? You'll see. You'll see. There's a difference between a ballpark and a stadium. I made a video vignette reflecting this, but I worked with him on the words. He said, we want it to be colloquial, not colossal, intimate, not intimidating. There's a third part in that couplet that'll come to me. So, tying it to my last words to Larry and his to me, I went to see him 2 days before he passed away. He was in a very weakened state. His heart was weakened. He had defeated cancer 3 times. He did not die of cancer and was very proud of that. That sounds a little dark to say, but he was. He was proud that he had defeated cancer, but his heart was giving out, and he knew that. And I had just come back from an event we had at Polar Park in Worcester, a family event right before opening day. I said, Larry, you gotta, and he was aware, but he was asleep. And I said, you gotta think about it. Camden Yards is still filling up day after day. Petco Park is a sensation. Fenway Park is still America's most beloved ballpark. JetBlue Park in spring training is still selling out the games. I said, and at Polar Park, we were just named best ballpark in AAA. So you're 5 for 5. And he opened his eyes, picked up his head on the couch, smiled, and went, 5 for 5. That's pretty good. Yeah. Put his head down, and those were our last words.
It is. Hey, he batted 1,000 on that.
He knew how to build ballparks, and he loved doing that because, and this is why he should go in the Hall of Fame, in addition to all the world championships, Baltimore still hasn't been back to the World Series. I hope they do go back. But the last time they were there, Larry helped with the 83 world champions. All the Boston success. But Larry loved reviving American cities by using baseball and ballparks as magnets that would bring, in minor league baseball, 500,000 people. In Major League Baseball, 3 million people. Down to a downtown, re-energizing it, rejuvenating it, and bringing a lot of business prosperity to the city. That when you change the course of American history by revitalizing downtowns through the power of baseball, you've done something to change the game and to change the country and maybe the world for the better.
That's one of my most favorite things about Fenway and Wrigley are obviously their own thing because they were built 100 years ago, and they're nestled into these neighborhoods. But like Camden and Petco, if you look from right before these parks were built, the development in the area, and then you fast forward now, and it's like San Diego specifically, I actually visited last summer, and it's incredible how much more development these parks bring once they're up. It's a whole new world. And I love seeing cities, downtowns prosper like that.
In San Diego, we were told, and so we promised, that if you built this ballpark, it would inspire $500 million of private investment. At last check, that investment is $6 billion.
Oh my
$6
God.
billion in private investment in a languishing part of a gorgeous city. And Petco Park was the catalyst for redevelopment, a new downtown neighborhood by the bay. It worked.
It's beautiful there. I got to ask, do you have a favorite park?
I love a lot of ballparks. I love going to San Francisco on a summer night.
Yeah.
Beautiful park.
I like
Beautiful park. Been once myself.
Level seat gives you the best view of the bay.
You could see Oakland.
Yeah,
You could see from
exactly. But
That's a good
of course,
answer.
I love the ballparks that I've been blessed to be a part of. But when I go to a ballpark, I look at how it fits into its city. Janet Marie Smith would say how it nestles into its city.
Yeah.
And what it does for its city. It's pretty amazing. Remember, there are more than 100 new ballparks in Major League Baseball and minor league baseball because of Camden Yards. Think of that.
Yeah, again, it was really the blueprint, the template. I say it with my dad all the time. The one that unfortunately just missed the boat because it opened like a year or two before Camden was the White Sox. What it's called,
1
guaranteed
year
rate.
before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. It was right before that. That is the one, right before Camden. So, the new jewel box, I think, is the jargon term for a park like Camden. But yeah, it really did set the model going forward. Jake jumped up a couple of minutes ago when you mentioned Fever Pitch. We have to take that pin out. You, Doc Charles, have a cameo in Fever Pitch. I haven't seen it in some time, but just to refresh people's memory, where do you feature in the 2005 snubbed for Best Picture Oscar Fever Pitch starring Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon?
Well, make sure you're ready to hit pause about 3/4 of the way through. It was such a kind gesture by the Farrelly brothers, who are the best. They're from Rhode Island. Yes. I haven't talked to them since we moved to Worcester. Maybe there's a reason for that. So they're from Rhode Island, but they are the best. And they wanted to thank all of us who had helped make, who had helped the ballpark be ready. Colleen Riley, dear friend and ambassador, had worked day and night. Colin Birch, who's still with the Red Sox. And they gave me a cameo. Like, oh, come on. So 3/4 of the way through, Drew Barrymore is out to dinner with her girlfriends, and her assistant bursts into the restaurant. You got the promotion. Come back, come back. They're waiting for you. They're going to toast you. Come back. And so Drew comes into the office, and there I am holding that glass of champagne that, yes, is ginger ale. And I get to hand her glass of champagne. Just before you see me, you might hear my bellow of speech, and she gives a speech, and that took about 26 takes, and she was perfect all 26 times. And she, you're staring right at her. She's right there, and I'm no actor, and she's a fabulous actor, and you're just like staring into her eyes while she's delivering this 26 times, and afterwards just, you were a great acting partner. I was like, yes, thank you.
Do you still get royalties for Fever Pitch? Are you part of like the SAG union now? What's the?
Not a dime. 3 things in 2004. I didn't get a royalty because you don't see me say speech. I would have needed to be SAG, and I wasn't. I did that. I played the organ for Jimmy Buffett, playing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at Fenway Park, and that was also gratis. And I did a third thing that was big in 2004. I have to think about what it was.
Tessie, you were on Tessie.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that.
Sing another victory song. Yes.
So that's you. You're in the mix on that.
Yeah, the second time they sing it, 5 of us are, but gosh, the Dropkicks. I'm saying that about all of them, but they're great guys. They're the best.
That's a hell of a year you had. 04.
Yeah. Well,
you got a lot done.
Big for us all in our own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dropkicks were just great to work with, and yeah, they had a bunch of us over to the recording studio. Now you had players in it too. Johnny Damon, who I think they thought as a singer was a great baseball player, but Bronson Arroyo, Lenny DiNardo, don't forget him. He's
Bronson's a real musician.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And Lenny can play the guitar just fine. But about 5 of us from the office were all on there going, sing another victory song, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
So, but we had worked with them to create Tessie, and had given them that notion to bring back a song that had been associated with Red Sox World Championships, but went away, and so did the World Championships. It came back memorably July 24th, 2004.
The Veritek fight game.
Oh.
The
Dropkicks
played that live at Fenway right before the game in which you had the brawl of all brawls.
With the rain beforehand, before that
I didn't
game.
know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that fun fact.
And so to this day, the Red Sox have only won World Series in years that Tessie's played.
Well, there you go. Right. Also, I should put it on the record here for everybody listening. The Dropkick Murphys, the pride of Quincy, Massachusetts. We have the Dropkicks. We have the first Dunkin' Donuts ever, and 2 U.S. presidents to our name in that order. I'll have you know. So really, Quincy gets credit for the 04 championship run, as far as I'm concerned. Dr. Charles, just kind of looking big picture now as we look forward. Given your decades of experience, all the hats that you've worn, I think a good way to encapsulate what your jobs have been has been connecting with fans. And that's been a topic that we've talked about here for the last 40 minutes or so. Going forward, and with college kids in the room, that this might be pertinent, generally speaking, and maybe this is a loaded question, what do you think the future of connecting with fans could look like? What are what's the next generation of people who are going to be in your shoes? What are they going to have to address, ask themselves, figure out, you name it?
It's a great question. It's a really good question, because for all of us who love baseball, you don't want to see the game go the way of Friday night fights or horse racing. You want to see it flourish as it has always flourished. To do that, you know that you need children to fall in love with baseball. We all remember where and when and why and how we fell in love with baseball. And when we do remember, stop and remember, we fall in love we fall in love again. You've got to make sure that that 8-year-old is falling in love with baseball. And is the competition another sport? Is the competition a television show? It seems that the competition is the phone. So we've got to build a bridge that instead of always rejecting the phone, yes, leave the phone while you're playing wiffle ball, kickball, stickball, street ball, any kind of diamond ball. But the phone is also a window to some fabulous stories. And baseball has the best stories. And whether it's the stories that we're teaching here of Jackie Robinson and Hank Aaron and Frank Robinson and Roberto Clemente, or whether you're teaching the stories of how the 04 Red Sox did what had never been done before, or the 2013s seemed to interlock with a city and carry it over the finish line at the rolling rally. Whatever that is, story, that word has the power to grip the children, to carry the children, to invite them into the beautiful stories of baseball, past and future. And I think that the players can help. I know the mascots can help. And the world of music can help. The children are attentive to music. The children are attentive to TikTok. They are attentive to Instagram. Well, let's use these platforms that the children are focused on, and let's make sure baseball, in all of its loving splendor, is right there. It's a romantic game.
I was just gonna, not to cut you off, I was just about to say, how could you not be romantic about baseball?
It
That's
is.
the class, to quote a great movie.
Right.
Not as great as Fever Pitch, though, of course.
Right. Yes.
But that's it. Yeah, that's Jimmy Fallon. And by the way, I didn't mention Jimmy. What a fabulous, fabulous guy to work with. And oh my heavens, he couldn't have been more gracious. He kept people in the office just so full of laughter. You gotta know that Jimmy Fallon really exuded wonderful personal qualities when we were making Fever Pitch. He added a lot to that 2004 atmosphere in our office. You should know that. And so and look, the writers was it Babalu Mandel and Lorenzo Gans. I think they were also the screenplay writers for City Slickers too. But how can you not be romantic about baseball? You're not romantic about baseball when you let the words that should not be said get said. Stop all that stuff. Talk about the beauty of the game. That's why pitchers and catchers report is still a great phrase. Opening day is a great phrase. Game 7 is a great phrase. But you've got to kind of clean the ice off the cars and remember the warmth that you feel because you once were 10 years old. And you could be again.
I got to ask, this is a good segue because I know we're talking about stories and being romantic about baseball. And selfishly, I'm fascinated by your time with the Orioles. I grew up in Baltimore and I went to Boys Latin, so I have to bring that up.
God.
So I had to bring that up. But especially after 04, obviously you, Larry, and Theo all start in Baltimore. You all go to San Diego together. Then you all move back to the East Coast, break the curse. Was there ever a moment where, I mean, obviously you and Larry would sit down together, but was there ever a moment where you three sat down together and were kind of like, wow, like this is a decade-long journey basically at that point?
Remember, it's Larry, Theo, Janet Marie Smith.
Oh, that's right, because the renovations and Petco.
Well, she built Camden Yards with Larry.
Right.
Consulted on Petco, and then did Fenway with Larry, and then built Worcester's ballpark while renovating Dodger Stadium. So I worked with 3 Hall of Famers. Larry belongs in Cooperstown. Janet Marie belongs in Cooperstown. Theo belongs in Cooperstown. So yeah, it wasn't as though the 4 of us sat around, smoking the proverbial pipe saying, gee, what a journey. But I sure noticed plenty of times along the way when I'm thinking, this has been unbelievable, and I've expressed it musically. I write songs that I impose upon the people of Worcester. And there's a song I wrote that's really autobiographical about the 4 of us and our journey. And being a Beatles fan, you could also apply it to the Beatles. But it is amazing. And that's what happens when really good, bright people are assembled together. They can do that which has never been done before.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, since you mentioned that you're a Beatles fan, I have to quickly ask you, what's your favorite Beatles album? Because I'm a huge Beatles guy myself.
I thought you were going to ask me favorite song. I love all the folky music around 1965 from like Help and I love Ticket to Ride. You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. But I have to tell you, I saw the Beatles at the Baltimore Civic Center, September 13th, 1964, and I was back there with my beautiful bride when Paul McCartney returned. I can remember that now. When was it? It was in 2022. So I was both times Paul McCartney played in Baltimore. I was there, as well as his concerts in Fenway Park. A shout out to Red Sox chairman Tom Werner and principal owner John Henry and Sam Kennedy, who's been a longtime friend. But they made it possible for me to meet Paul McCartney at Fenway and thank him for the influence on my musical career and just on my life. So, yeah, major things we're talking about here.
Yeah, right. Mac is my favorite, and Mac is still. He recently turned 80 a couple of years ago. He still puts on a hell of a show. Let me tell you, been lucky to see him a couple of times myself. Fellas, did you guys have any additional questions?
Yeah, I just had one more, and I think I know what the answer is going to be, but I wanted to ask it anyway because you have organized so many events and programs throughout your decades in baseball now. Is there any one that stands out to you where you say, wow, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to pull that off, but we nailed that? Or is there a program you put together that you're most proud of, or, that you found most challenging? I guess really, like, is there one achievement that you look at in your career and say, wow, that was really fulfilling and, something I never thought I would do, but the journey itself has been so long and winding that, this one of all stands out the most?
Yes, there is, but I would hasten to seek your indulgence to tell you of 2, because the first one you were more proximal to, and that was the final day at Memorial Stadium. That was when, to an orchestral ballet of the music to Field of Dreams, 125 former Orioles, including Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson, surprised people by coming out and going to their positions on the field with never a word needing to be said. Working on that with Rick Vaughn and Julie Wagner, that would have been my answer, because it also led to so many other similar cousins to that. Tony Gwynn's last game in San Diego, similar theme. The Red Sox 100th anniversary, similar theme. But the ceremony that stands out above all others as being the most important ceremony I've ever done working on it with my dear and long time friend and collaborator Sarah McKenna at the Boston Red Sox, was April 20th, 2013. And you know that as the ceremony in which David Ortiz made his unforgettable and unrepeatable speech.
You can repeat it on this program for sure. Absolutely. Oh, did we lose him?
Circumstance.
Oh.
That ceremony, in that circumstance, we're going to do a whole class on it here at Emerson. So many parts to it, and in a different kind of emotional atmosphere than any of us had ever experienced, with David Ortiz rising to the occasion. Now, we only asked him if he would speak that morning. What people don't remember, and you're Red Sox fans, you may, he had not played for the Boston Red Sox that year. Not
That's
one
right.
game. He had been out since the previous August with the Achilles injury.
Johnny Gomes was the DH on opening day. I don't know why. I always remember that nugget.
And there you go. Remember, he was doing the rehab assignment in Pawtucket. So this was going to be his first game in 2013. And Pam Ken and Sarah Narachi, two fabulous colleagues at the Red Sox, Pam said in her Boston accent, "Dr. Childs, if you ask David Ortiz to speak, he's liable to drop an F-bomb." I said, "You think so?" She goes, "Oh, I know so." Well, the short story is Pam and two Sarahs were all about, and Sarah Narachi asked David to speak. I'm not sure. You can drop a bomb if you want to. Really? I might do it twice. So, so for David, it was spontaneous. It just came out. But it captured the spirit as you were concluding something that was funereal and yet had to get ready for a baseball game. And the reason we thought of it was, I said, we need an elbow. We can't just go from a ceremony like this and say, okay, let's play baseball. Like, that's a disconnect. You needed something to turn the corner and take you up to the energy level of a baseball game. It was like, how about if David Ortiz were to speak? And Big Papi delivered in the clutch yet again.
That's just what he does. We all know that's what he does. So, I mean, man, we could do this for hours, just talking about all the stories of this event and that event, and this part of Fenway and Camden lore. It would be, we could be doing this for hours. But the kids at Emerson got other classes to go to at some point as well. How are they reacting to this right now?
Wake up! Wake up! They are glued to the screen. They are gripped with excitement. They're here.
That's good. That's good that they're showing up. Fellas, anything else that we wanted to add before we wrap it up?
I just appreciate how knowledgeable you are and how kind you are to tee up these stories. One time we should talk about Johnny Gomes. You brought him up. What a class act.
Yes.
And I'll just leave you with this. It's a fair ending for the class and for this. If you remember, in the rolling rally, when we won the 2013 World Series, we intentionally stopped the parade at the finish line of the marathon. Mm-hmm. I believed that you had to pause and reflect in order to celebrate wholeheartedly. And when we did, Johnny Gomes and Jared Saltalamacchia, the two players who had said, let's make Boston strong jerseys, 617, descended from their duck boats. And if you remember, Johnny Gomes very delicately folded his jersey and put it in the World Series trophy right on the finish line and gave it a moment before we continued. Well, a few weeks later, we were at an event. I said, that was cool what you did. He said, I wanted to take a scene of tragedy and also make it a scene of triumph. You can't look at the finish line now without seeing both.
Mm.
That's your left fielder. That's your opening day DH. There is a lot of heart and a lot of thought in.
Oh my God, was he opening day DH that year?
Yeah.
Liam
Oh,
just
that's right.
mentioned
Ortiz
it.
came back. Yeah. Oh my God, I totally. That's wow.
That was one heck of a thoughtful sentiment. And don't forget Ben Charrington. He put that 2013 club together. 7 free agents, and he went 7 for 7. Don't let
That's
history forget that.
He nailed that winter.
Yes,
He
he
really
did.
did.
Yes, he did. Those
The
were
streets
good
will forever
guys.
be grateful for that.
They were winners on the field and off.
Absolutely.
I'd
And
love to
that's
ask. I mean, I just have one more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just that because you brought up Johnny Gomes, do you have one or two favorite players that in all your years as not that you were a fan like Brooks Robinson, but that when you were in the front offices that you loved working with?
Even in the front office, there's no one like Brooks Robinson. He was the model. He was the ideal. He was Cal Ripken's favorite player. Brooks was amazing. And Jim Palmer still is a friend. But at the Padres, it was Tony Gwynn and Trevor Hoffman. Then you come to the Red Sox, and you've got David Ortiz and Pedro Martinez. Of course, now the list will go on. Jason Varitek and, of course, the late Tim Wakefield. But when you work with people like that at the Dodgers, oh, my God, the great older Dodgers, oh, they were the best. They were the best. And, you know, they had this living history. I mean, I was reunited there with Fernando, who had pitched for the Orioles in 93 and the Padres in 95 and 96. They were the best. And some of the players, so many of the players that have been in our game have really contributed with their personality, with their heart, with their humor. Brooks Robinson is still the best.
All right. Thank you.
And yeah, that's coming from the man who has seen it all. Dr. Charles Steinberg, again, we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us about anything and everything under the baseball sun. We appreciate it, Doctor.
Thanks. Great to
Doc,
talk to you.
thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Oh, wow.